First up, sorry for sounding a bit sniffly. I just got back from a trip and caught something on my way back. So yeah, I'm going to sound a little different than I do normally. Second, sorry for not making things for a little while. This has felt like the quickest a month has ever passed, with just a lot of life stuff happening, but I'm getting back on the wagon, and to kick it off, I wanted to put together a list of what I'm personally looking at going into Heresy. It'll take me a while to get around to testing and making a lot of these builds and their dedicated videos, if they even deserve it, so I thought this would be a good way to get out some ideas of what to expect on the channel, but also it might give you a bit of inspiration for some of your own builds. But without further ado, Hunters, you're up. The first build, and what I'll probably be testing out straight away once Heresy launches, will be an On the Prowl setup, which I'm imagining will look something like this. With On the Prowl, you go Invis, mark a nearby target, kill that target, get weapon buffs, ability energy, and then drop a weakening smoke that makes you and allies invis, and with Guishan Vest, there's just been a buff to make the super returns more consistent, with energy added from hits, not kills, and another buff taken straight from the TWAB, reading improved the maximum possible super energy gains per return, whilst also increasing the amount of progress needed for maximum gains. To me, this sounds like more super energy if you light attack more before you heavy attack. But really importantly, Guishan now also drops a smoke nearby you when you exit Invis in both your super and just in neutral play. And a quick disclaimer, I feel this build is going to live or die depending on whether that weakening smoke functions identically to Snare Bomb. If it doesn't have the disorient, I don't think it's going to be all that good. However, if both On the Prowl and Guishan get that disorienting effect, where enemies duck their heads into their hands, I genuinely believe this build is going to be extremely strong. It's kind of hard to tell from the footage, but On the Prowl looks like it's disorienting, so I'm hopeful that it's going to work. If it does, the build will be offensive, spammy, and have great pseudo crowd control and disorient from your smokes, stylish for more invis procs, and fragments I'm imagining would be good here are Expulsion, Harvest, Starvation, and Reprisal, although these will change depending on a few interactions. Stick on some close quarter guns, and some void synergy perks like Repulsor Brace, Withering Gaze, and the freshly buffed destabilizing rounds for stylish, or exotics that have synergy like Slayer's Fang, and I think this build has the potential to be extremely strong for content like GMs. I've already got a short list of things I want to test, with those being 1. Does On the Prowl have a marked target limit? As in, can I go Invis, mark a target, go Invis again, and another target be marked at the same time? 2. What are the ability energy returns for On the Prowl? 3. What are On the Prowl and Guishan smokes counted as? As in, is it melee damage, and all of the smoke is just coded like a snare bomb? Is it just plain ability damage? Or is it super damage when using the heavy attack during spectral and exiting super? If during the super the smoke counts as super damage, do the smoke hits count as super hits and refund energy on the heavy attack? 4. Do the void ability hits from expulsion count as super hits during super? If I were to light attack, get a kill and expulsion hits 4 enemies, will I get 1 hit's worth of regen, or 5 hits worth of super regen on going invis? And 5. Does Guishan Vest have a built-in cooldown for spawning smokes? Those are some of the things that I'm going to be testing off the bat once we get Heresy launched. To be honest, there'll probably also be an alternate version of this build using Omnioculus, which I'm sure will be good, but thematically the Guishan build is just one that I mesh with a lot more. It sounds and looks like an assassin-y playstyle, which I think will feel really fun, and depending on the answers of some of what I've just gone over, I think this build will also be extremely strong. Next up, we're looking at Arc. I'm toying with the idea of a Radiant Dance Machine's Ascension Disorienting Blow setup, having Blind, Jolt, and Bolt Charge all wrapped up in one neat package, which I think is going to end up looking something like this. Blinds coming from Disorienting Blow, which now AoE blinds and gives Bolt Charge stacks, plus it now deals damage in an area around it, rather than a single target, and Jolts coming from Ascension, which now gives 3 fragment slots, as well as triggering Gambler's Dodge melee reset. Lastly, RDM got updated to read like so. Improved airborne effectiveness and hipfire mobility, range and accuracy for primary ammo weapons. Multi-kills with primary ammo weapons refund dodge energy. When dodge energy is full, multi-kills grant extra charges. Powerful combatants and guardians count as more than one kill. I'm not 100% sure how RDMs are going to work post this update, but it sounds like using abilities like Ascension won't end your multi-dodge buff, which is going to be great. The second aspect choice I'm not 100% sure on, but it's either between Flow State or Lethal Current, but I want to test both here. Lethal would be nice for its aftershock damage, and Flow State would be nice for bridging the gap between having your RDM buff run out and getting to your next dodge. For fragments, Spark of Resistance for DR, Beacons for more blind, Amplitude for free orbs, then something like Brilliance or Feedback, and depending on whether it works well, Spark of Frequency, which now has the added effect of giving all sources of bulk charge an additional stack. I'll have to test with ions to see whether we hit any important breakpoints on bulk charge. I'm already imagining the gameplay loop being something like Disorienting Blow to blind and kick off bulk charge, then Ascension, which will refresh Disorienting, then Disorienting again for hopefully a bulk charge lightning strike, and then just loop that combo. I'm hoping this one's going to be good because I think the gameplay of this build is going to feel really fun. Raiju's Harness is another build I have my eye on too, but whether this gets its own dedicated video fully depends on whether Bolt Charge's lightning strikes are coded as a debuff. If they are, it can proc Raiju's super regen perk and will hopefully be regenning a load of super energy. If it doesn't, then I'm not as interested. It'll still be strong, but not something I'm going to be making a full video on. Lastly, not that they're exotic builds I see myself making videos on, but Ride and Flux, Gifted Conviction, Lucky Raspberry all just get passive buffs from Arc getting tuned up, so maybe something to mess around with. And if you're really wanting to give it a go, yeah, Polite Ranger technically got buffed with Bolt Charge stacks getting added to Reflecting with Arc Staff. Not sure if it'll be any good, but I'm definitely not the person to tell you to not use weird stuff. That's kind of the whole point of the channel. And the last build for Hunters, and one I'm really excited about, just because I'm curious to see how it's going to play, is Sealed Ahamkara Grasp's Gunslinger. With Grasp, when you get a powered melee kill or finisher, you get a stack of Nightmare Fuel, giving handling and AE bonuses. While active, freshly drawn weapons get a damage bonus and grant Nightmare Fuel on kills, and gaining Nightmare Fuel reloads all holstered weapons. In my head, I've got two versions of this build. Every version I think will have On Your Mark to further enhance the feel of your weapons, but one version then using Lightweight Knife and another using Weighted. The Lightweight Knife version will free up a fragment slot as you won't need Ember of Torches for Radiant, whereas you would for Weighted. For fragments here, I have absolutely no clue. I don't know what direction I want to take this exotic in, whether it is purely weapon focused, or whether I throw in some ignition tech, to see whether those ignitions are damage boosted by Nightmare Fuel's damage bonus on guns that apply Scorch. Again, it's one where I'll just have to go and test super hard with this one to find out its interactions. Right, Warlocks. You have got some sauce here and two builds that I think will be extremely powerful, with one I'm imagining being pretty hard meta, depending on whether some certain interactions work. First up, Stormcooler Verity's Prowl Ionic Sentry. There is one big question that determines whether this entire build works. Is Ionic Sentry counted as a grenade? If the answer to that is yes, I think this build is going to be extremely potent. It should, one, hopefully be benefiting from Verity's damage bonus, meaning the turret is going to be great at building up more bulk charge stacks as it gets them on landing a kill, but two, every use of Ionic Sentry should be triggering Feel the Flames, which is a 10 times grenade regen speed for allies for 5 seconds. If either one of those effects trigger, and in the perfect world, both of them will, I think this is going to be a mainstay build for Warlocks with a load of applications from content like GMs to damage rotations, as you might be able to by yourself stack up to 10 seconds of Feel the Flame just from the Sentry and then using your base grenade. For the rest of the build, I'm imagining it to look something like this, but I don't think you'll be locked into any set of aspects or fragments apart from Ionic Sentry. Although my gut is telling me Electrostatic Mind is probably going to be the most powerful one to pair with Ionic Sentry. Ball Lightning and Chaos Reach seem like the best choices here, mainly because your other options are kind of bad, and my fragments would personally be Shock, Resistance, Discharge, and Magnitude, but again, maybe I put in Ions here for the increased Bolt Charge stacks, I'm just not too sure yet. And for your grenade, I think Pulse or Storm are the best choices to pair with Verities. Again, if Ionic Sentry is considered a grenade, my mod setup will lean hard into grenade mods. Firepower, Ashes to Assets, and I think we are looking at an absolute monster of a build. And following not far behind is Geomag Stabilizers. These things have had a serious glow up. They now top off your bulk charge stacks when sprinting, so when you hit 6 stacks, you've really just hit max stacks, which means more melee energy and more lightning strikes. But the real strength comes from Ionic Tracers giving 7% of a super on pickup. That is a nuts amount of super energy for a pickup that is so easy to make. I've made entire builds that are focused on less super regen than what you'll get here. The build will probably look something like this. Stick on Ionic Sentry, Electrostatic Mind, Spark of Discharge and Ions, and that super bar is going to fly. I have no doubt this is going to be an amazing build, and with the buffs that weapons like Delicate Tomb have received, which is all about making Ionic Tracers, I'm pretty confident saying that this build will feel amazing to use, but be super strong too. And as before, there's definitely some exotics you can try that I don't think will be a big priority for me to make dedicated videos on immediately, in Inmost Syntho's Lightning Surge, Crown of Tempest build, and Fallen Sunstar. Storm Dancer's Brace did get buffed, but I'm still very unsure about Palpatine Hands being a good super in the first place, and I don't think this pushes the needle enough for me to want to use that exotic. Last, but definitely not least, Titans. I think you've got a few great builds here, with the big one I'm looking at being Khepri's Horn. The change it's received is that it will now shoot out 3 solar waves that spawn sunspots with greater tracking, which I imagine will be really similar to how Abeyant works, but just with a bit of solar spice. But the thing that's really got my attention is the wording that they've used. Combatants damaged by these waves are enveloped in a sunspot. To me, that almost sounds like each enemy hit by a wave will spawn their own individual sunspot. If that is the case, this build is going to be ridiculously efficient at causing ignitions and giving you all the benefits of Sol Invictus, which already was an extremely powerful aspect. In my mind, the build will look something like this, but I'm definitely going to spend a bit of time tweaking fragments here, or even using entirely different sets, depending on whether I'm wanting to build into chain ignitions, survivability, or cooldowns. But I think with Khepri's, you're really going to have the choice to pick between all of these. And this is before you even think about its other perk of solar kills just giving class ability energy. I think this is the dark horse out of all of these buffs, and a build that'll be extremely strong. And for your arc sets, I think Storm's Keep is going to be really strong, although I don't think there's going to be a massive amount of subclass variety for Storm's Keep. I think you'll probably be wanting to run Storm's Keep alongside Touch of Thunder and something like Pulse or Storm Grenade, and your fragment list from there can probably be pretty flexible. I'm thinking something along the lines of this, but Storm's Keep is an aspect that needs to be really tested to find its good pairings. A few exotics I'm looking at are Eternal Warrior with its Arc Surge bonuses, and recently buffed Fist of Havoc super duration, Actium Warrig, which I'm imagining is going to be seriously efficient at getting bolt charge stacks, and Hazardous Propulsion too, but I've really just got to see what's what with this aspect and its good exotic pairings. Apart from that, I don't think there's going to be loads of new stuff on Titan, but I think what you are going to get is going to be really powerful. And a final note on the ability side, Bolt Charge is something we don't fully understand, but I'm not sure whether it's going to work similarly to something like how Ignitions work, where they're affected by exotic and subclass damage buffs. For example, like how a Prismatic Consecration Titan Ignition gets Synthos and Knockouts damage bonus, with something like a Verity's Ionic Sentry Bolt Charge Lightning Strike get affected by Verity's damage buff in some way. We don't know this yet, but there'll definitely be some builds that will be worth looking into if something like this kind of tech does end up working. And that's kind of the short list of what I've been thinking up. If there's anything you've got that you have a feeling might be fun or strong, drop it below. I am putting together a Discord at the minute which will hopefully make sharing builds easier, so I'll be vocal about that when it eventually comes around. Lots of stuff to look forward to though, but for now, that's about it from me, until what will hopefully be the Grecian build video. That's it.